Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars, and yes, I'm back. I know I haven't posted for a couple of days, but that is because unfortunately I have been unwell with flu. And you wouldn't have understood a word a couple of days ago if I'd have tried to upload a review, so I've spent the last couple of days trying to catch up watching a couple of movies here and there and TV shows, things like that. So hopefully I can get busy with some more reviews. So what am I reviewing today? Well, I'm reviewing the brand new action thriller Braven that stars Jason Momoa and Stephen Lang. And this is a movie that focuses on Jason Momoa's character, who is a guy called Braven, who is a logger out in the snowy mountains, and he has a father who's played by Stephen Lang and a family, and his father suffers with dementia. He had an accident, it explains, about a year ago, and he now suffers with dementia as a result of that. Life's getting increasingly difficult at home. He has like this cabin out in the snowy mountains, and he takes his dad on a trip out there to have the difficult conversation with him, as if to, what are we going to do here, sort of thing. But what he doesn't realise is that a drug run gone bad has used his deserted log cabin to store a lot of drugs, and they're coming to get these drugs. And there's a group of criminals, very dangerous criminals, who are coming out to this cabin to collect the drugs, thinking that the cabin is abandoned, but it's not abandoned. It's got Jason Momoa, Stephen Lang, and his daughter who turns up. And the story then becomes a fight for survival. How is Jason Momoa going to protect his family? How is Jason Momoa going to fight off these drug criminals, drug warlords? And how is this all going to end? Well, now, if this kind of sounds a little bit familiar, there is an element of cliffhanger to this movie, and it tips its hat in more ways than one to that movie. Now, that's not a bad thing, I don't think. Cliffhanger's a very good movie. The only real difference here is there's not really any cliffs in this movie. Well, there are a couple of cliffs, but not to the extremes of that movie, Cliffhanger. But very similar concepts. What I think works in this movie, and I'll say straight off the bat, I do think this movie works. I found it personally to be really quite entertaining and very well made, some very beautiful cinematography. There's two things that make this movie work: Jason Momoa and Stephen Lang. Jason Momoa has occasionally, and when I've had conversations with people about Jason Momoa, including members of my family, Game of Thrones fans, and people have watched Justice League, things like that, a lot of people are critical of his acting ability. Well, I don't really think you can throw that accusation at him in this movie, because I think he does a really good job in this movie. He makes a believable father. It makes a believable action lead, and a realistic action lead. But probably the standout performance in this movie is Stephen Lang, who's grown into be an excellent character actor over the years, and is like a fine wine. Stephen Lang has only got better with age in regards to his acting, and he gives a very, very convincing performance as his father, who is suffering with dementia, who's really, really struggling. And they get that across really, really well. And I think it's that family angle that really makes you care about this movie, because they spend the time for you to get to know this family a little bit: Jason Momoa and his wife and his daughter and his father, and the trials and tribulations that they're having in their life, and that really pays off in this movie. So really well done with that. So when the threat begins and the cabin is surrounded by these criminals, you really do care. So I thought they worked that really, really well into this movie. And he's a big guy, Jason Momoa. He's a perfect action hero, but he doesn't go through these criminals like they don't exist. It is very realistic action. He has to think on his feet. He has to be clever, and he has to be brutal at times. And I think the movie does a really, really good job of being quite creative in how they approach the action in this film. Now, that's not to say it doesn't come with its faults, because it does. The criminals, the bad guys, very generic. You've seen them before. There's nothing stand out about them, I don't think. They're just there. They're just fodder, really. So that's definitely the weakest part of this movie for me. Is definitely the criminals, but it's a movie that I think. I mean, I didn't know even existed until a few days ago when I watched it, and I'm really glad I did. It's only enhanced for me Jason Momoa's reputation. It's certainly worth seeking out if you're looking for a well-made quality action thriller, and you could certainly do far worse than this. So I do recommend this film, and I'd give it a strong 7 out of 10.